Hello everybody and welcome to Imperia version 0.3. This is Steve here and I'm going to show you just a few features that we've been working on. Now obviously we're still a long way away from actually making the game, but I wanted to kind of go over a little bit of the new user interface. We're going to continue to tweak it. It's not the final build, but just kind of see what's going on here. Up here is pretty much still the same. You've got the date, you've got your popular support. This is your tyranny rating. Or fear rating. This is your power, 7 out of 100, which you can see isn't very high. Your benevolent influence and your tyrannical influence. Over here it looks a little bit different. Here you have your action points. You have your gross planetary product. This is actually your budget that you will use to set a budget. You set a budget every year. We'll go into that in another video. And this is your change expected based on events for the current year. And then you also have resource, basically they're stockpiles. So you have energy, basic materials, heavy materials, and rare materials. So this is what's used to create projects. And these are stored at your empire capital, namely New Terra. Over here is your alert bar. As you click on things, now it's not set up yet, but the plan is when you hover on it, it'll pop up to show the alert, and then when you click on it, it will take you to where you need to go. Down here, these are your sub-mode buttons. We have your reforms, we have your finance, military, intel, emperor information, and diplomacy. And of course, this is your next turn button. Now this is our kind of a new thing, and I'm surprised more games don't have something like this. This is called the command mode. So, you know, in a lot of games, you know, say you're trying to make a military decision, you know, well, you got to find your fleets, maybe you got to look at the enemy, maybe you've got to try to round up your generals, you got to look at where you know you're going to attack, and you're trying to get all this information, and you're having to jump from screen to screen, you're having to, you know, it's a lot of work. Or say you're trying to figure out your trade situation, and you're just trying to see everything in one place. You know, people tend to do things more by type than by action. In other words, people tend to think, you know, I need to adjust my trade, or I need to go attack that planet, or I need to explore. And so what these command modes do is they basically set everything up in the game to work around just that mode. So I'll give you an example. We'll go ahead and set this to economic. Now you can see how we have a trade focus, you can have sub-focuses, and everything changes. So now you have a trade groups, and we'll go into trade in just a little bit. And here you have your political mode, and this is sovereignty, so you can kind of see you know, the sphere of influence. You see the amount of admin points, and then as you zoom in, you see a little bit more information about each planet. Of course, here are the planets here, so it looks quite a bit different. So let's go ahead and zoom in to Neo-Cyrus. We are in the process of changing over the system screen. But you'll notice the project bar shows projects that are set up for political, scout system, and survey system. Now if I change to economic, it goes away. If I change to demographic, and we don't have a whole lot of systems in yet, but you can see they change on the fly. And the idea being, as you change these focuses, the information on here will change as well. Up here you see the crests, or the house banners of the house that has that planet as a holding. Right now you may notice we're using House Hawken, we're using the Game of Thrones. We actually are going to be putting in some of the major and great houses banners, but I just need some placeholder art to get that functionality working. As far as the projects, basically simple, you just click on it and this will come up. Now obviously this is not working yet, it's just kind of showing you what the screen will look like to a point, and everything will kind of set up. If you see we put a blog about projects about 2 months ago, kind of go into a little bit more detail, but basically these are the old edicts. They're a little bit easier to set up, and obviously a little bit more graphically inclined. So anyway, we'll also have tooltips showing more information about each project. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in. This is also a work in progress. You see the projects. If we go economic, you see we have rename, expand trade infra. Again, these are just kind of placeholder projects while we get the system working. It will be fully involved in the 0.4 build. We just wanted to get it in the system and get the underlying functionality working. So this is actually going to be your chain of command. It's going to move over, and it's going to be roughly in this area on both the planet and the system screen. So the next version really is more about the UI. You're going to see a lot of differences on the Planet and System UI. This is where you'll really start to see the differences. But right now, we really just want to kind of give people a taste of that system. So one thing we have spent a lot of time on is the trade system. So right now we have what are called trade groups. So as you can see, we have an imperial trade group, and then we have a province trade group. You see they're quite a bit smaller, and they have different colors. So every hub that's within a trade group is also part of that trade group. So I'll show you kind of how that works in a little bit. So you can see that each planet, well, all of them have red and they have blue. The red are the imports that are needed. In other words, Neosiris, they need heavy, rare, basic, heavy, and rare materials for some of their planets. But they are exporting these food, energy, heavy, and rare. So what you'll see in that case, you'll probably see an inter-system trade, because you have a planet that is exporting heavy and one that is importing heavy. So let's take a look at what happens. Let's go ahead and hit the next button. I'll kind of show you how it works. So there's a very, very detailed process by how planets determine what they trade and what they need to trade. Now you can see this number here. This is the amount of fleets that system can support. So essentially they're supported by your merchant pops. And so as you have more fleets, as you have more merchants, you can support more fleets. So let's kind of take a look. You can see we've created some fleets over here, and we've created fleets over here. And you can see the lines. So we have one fleet here. It's going to take 8 months. It's transporting 0.6 heavy from Elysium to Zarjaz. So Zarjaz is a planet here. You can see that Zarjaz has made quite a bit of money on that. You can see they're a provincial trade hub, and they have no trade fleets available. They're able to send 3 trade fleets per month because they have a starbase level of 3. Also, Nuterra, you can see they have a starbase level of 4. So basically, they've sent out all their fleets. So let's take a look. Let's hit go, and you can kind of see there go the fleets. So you can kind of get a better look at where they're going. So when a system is trying to decide what to send, they're basically looking at where am I going to get the most bang for my buck. So each resource has a price, and it goes up and down. It fluctuates depending on supply and demand. So essentially, the trade AI is trying to figure out A, where I can get the most profit, and B, who I can help the most based on my situation. So in this case, we have a trade. Here's 0.3 heavy from Nuterra to Grasset. So let's look at Grasset. See, that's what they're paying. This amount here, they've paid 1.63 billion credits essentially for this trade. So you can see that they don't have a whole lot. Let's see if we go here. Heavy. Okay, so you can see they need heavy right here. So if we go in here, it's the only planet. And you can see they just don't have a lot of mines. They only have 5 mines on the whole planet, so they're not making a whole lot. So most likely they need more. So over here, we've got 2.7 basic, 2.6 basic. So you can see that they're making a lot of money here. So if we go into Cradle, we can see Dadal is spending a lot of money. In fact, their gross domestic product has gone in the red. They are spending so much money to keep their economy afloat, and that's not a good thing. Most likely, that's a viceroy that has very little caution, and they're not very fiscally sound. That's something that the game takes into account. If the viceroy is prudent and cautious, they won't spend a lot of money. And if they have a high humanity and empathy level, then they'll spend more money on food and energy. Whereas if they're a little more tyrannical and less empathy, they're going to spend mostly on resources so that they can build things like armies and fleets and things like that. So quite a bit more we could talk about. This is basically just to give an overview, but you can see kind of how everything's shaping up. You can also see how trade works in the game. So that's pretty much all I have to show. Just want to give you a hint of where we're going with that. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a little bit.